What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow, and we're going to be going over Cardano, Charles Hoskinson, Midnight, changing things around a little bit with my audio and my presentation of how I do some things, especially these reaction videos. I know I've seen some of your comments. Some of you, well, the majority of you seem to really love my reaction videos. A couple of you, I'm pretty sure I know what camp you're in, but you're kind of trolling me a little bit. Like, Crow, you don't have anything to say, so you're just reacting. Listen, I've been here since 2017. I've said it all. But at this point, I actually like doing the reaction videos. It's a little bit more fun for me sometimes. So, and you know, honestly, there are so many really good people in the Cardano ecosystem on YouTube, many of which are still yet to be undiscovered, I feel, by many. So I figure, you know what, if I can shed a light on some of these folks that I watch and that I enjoy and that I get some of the latest, you know, goings on from, then maybe you'll enjoy them too. So that's honestly a big part of why I do the reactions. Otherwise, I would only react to like the biggest crypto YouTubers out there all the time. So I like to do a mixed bag. So anyway, here we go. We're going to look at a little bit of technical analysis of Cardano's price action with a bit of a price prediction for Cardano. So a Cardano price prediction, if you will. That's a little tag for the search engines there. And then we're going to go into a video about Charles and Midnight and what's coming. So obviously we've had a pretty decent pump yesterday, but we're getting a pullback. Personally, I'd like to see us close on a weekly above 42 cents. But we're going to see what Ice Wallow Crypto has to say. He's got 1.6 thousand subscribers. I think he deserves a little bit more. Let's take a look and see what he has to say about Cardano's price.
Got rejected by it, but not really.
We'll play the whole thing.
Welcome to another Cardano update. So there's finally some good news. We actually got to the bull market support band. And as you can see, we kind of got rejected by it, but not really, because this is not really a huge rejection, and I believe we will still get a pump very, very soon. Now, I cannot confirm that we will get a pump. Maybe we'll break down, but do not forget we are still above the trend line, which is a very good sign. We broke out of the falling wedge pattern, which is also good. So I still think we will go to 53 cents and touch the 200% extension to finish the third wave move right here. I think this is a very likely scenario right now. Now, we have not broken above this high yet, but once we get above this high, then it's going to look bullish because we will finally put in a higher low. So as you can see in the main second wave right here, when we went down, we never actually put in a higher high. So this was a lower high, this was a lower high, this was a lower high, and this was a lower high. So if we want to prove that Cardano can actually do something right now, we need to go above this high first and then above this high right here. And that will put us at about, let's say, 45 cents. Then after that, we still need to finish the third wave move to the upside, like I said, and we need to get to 53 cents. Now,
I agree with that. It looks good. And, you know, he did this analysis, obviously, before we started getting our pullback. And, you know, I think, let me see, can I pull this up? Yeah, I can show. This is actually my chart and what I reference quite frequently. You can see that there's a lot of red at around the, let's just say it starts off at around the 44 cent mark. And I think ultimately, this is what I personally expect to happen. You can see down here, we basically wicked into this. Yeah, we're on the weekly. So we basically wicked into the 20-week simple moving average, and you know, we got our pullback. I want to see us close above it into around the 42 cent range on the weekly, because then from there we'll start chewing up into this range, which is the 44 cent to about the 50, well, like, you know, 52, 53 cent range. I think this is going to be in phases, but I do believe that this is going to be October. I think that we're going to ultimately, I would love to see us close above this on the weekly. You know, here we are on the 25th. That could happen. We could effectively close on a weekly candle above this moving average, and that just starts setting resistance from, or support from there, as we start to chew up all of this in here. And you know, it's going to take time. I mean, when you have the amount in circulating supply, and you have this kind of sell pressure at these price points, I'm going to be real honest and say there is a part of me that believes that there are major whales out there suppressing the price of Cardano because it's cheaper to suppress the price of Cardano while whatever they're trying to promote or pump is making more gains. That's just my own personal opinion. But the thing is, and this is something that we've seen because we had something similar down at these lower price points, but when the market turns and it gets bullish, it really starts to chew up this bearish liquidity very quickly. And then once we break through that, we get really big pumps. I mean, really big pumps. And that's, I think, honestly, a part of why Cardano moves the way it does. I do believe that there's some suppression in the market. I do. And it could just be me being a tinfoil hat guy, but it is what it is. But I think that there's so much big bullish stuff happening. I mean, Iagon, for God's sakes, it pumped like 70% over a week. I had the CEO on and he was great, man. Like, he was a really fun interview and a really cool dude to talk to. I genuinely look forward to doing that again. I can't wait 5 months for these Cyclone units to come out. That's gonna suck. Like, just waiting for that. I really want one. I've got a spot ready for it right now. I want a couple, and if I can, I'd like to get a couple for some of the guys that help me, like Crypto Chef and Greg. I'd like to get them a couple as well. So I'll see what I can work out. But I think those are really, really cool. So anyway, we're going to take a look at we're going to take a look at this video here. This is the Nightpaper midnight breakdown with late crypto, the late game crypto with Josh Noriega. He seems like a cool cat, man. I've seen some of his videos in the past and I like what he does. I like his format. He's only got 5.13 thousand subscribers, but I think he does a really good job. Actually, I'm not subscribed on this computer. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop him a subscribe and we're going to take a look. This is about 11-minute video. I've only watched like the first 4 or 5 minutes of it, but I liked where it was going. And I'm like, let's go ahead and react to the rest of it and see what he has to say and see what he's got going for him. So let's check it out now.
Like this?
This is all a scam. The whole industry is a scam.
Do you want to know why Charles Hoskinson keeps coming out with clips like this?
This is all a scam. The whole industry is a scam. If that's not the case, if it's just tokens and speculation, what are we doing?
Or this?
And that is why Cardano, I feel, is probably going to become the biggest cryptocurrency in the world.
Or this?
If we can do what I'm saying, there's no way to beat Cardano because there's nothing that can compete with it, because at the end of the day, it has lived up to what Satoshi started.
The reason actually has quite a lot to do with Midnight, which is a next generation blockchain technology that will primarily use Cardano as its consensus layer.
And I do want to point out real quick, because I know that some of you don't believe this, but it's 100% true. So my wife and I, we have 2 cats. We have 2 Maine Coons. Okay. One of them is named Cardano. Okay. For obvious reasons. The second one we got, she's all black. She's really big already. She's huge. Her parents were like, her dad was like, you can't really even see it, but her dad was like this long, like an absolutely huge Maine Coon cat. And so was her mother. Her mother was really big as well, but she's all black. So we named her Midnight. And so we have Cardano and Midnight. And Midnight, we named her and got her before Midnight was ever even announced, was ever even a thing in Cardano, just so you know. So if there's anything that the stars are trying to tell me, it's that I think I'm on the right track in terms of where I've devoted a lot of my time and attention. So I just wanted to make that point. I'll share some pictures with her on Twitter at some point.
Let's talk about it. Welcome to Late Game Crypto. My name is Josh, and I'm here to help you find digital liberty in the complex world of crypto. Remember that anything you hear in any of my videos is not to be taken as financial advice. Do your own research and own your own decisions.
Same, I concur.
I have been wanting to do this video for so long. I probably promised to do this video like 10 months ago, but the problem was that at that time, there wasn't any comprehensive literature to base my content off of until last week the Midnight team dropped the cleverly titled light paper, the Nightpaper. Midnight is a next generation.
which, just so that you know, if you check out down below where I have a partner channel listed, you'll see AI audio files. That is actually a channel that I created recently using Google's new technology for Notebook LLM. And I took the Midnight white paper and I threw it in there, and I'm building it. I'm adding like another one every day for the most part. And they're really actually really educational, and they're really fun to listen to. It's a very steady flow conversation. But those are effectively conversations generated by AI based off of PDF reports, documents, white papers, and things like that. And I've got some really interesting stuff in there. I've got the recent report by BlackRock on Bitcoin. I've got Midnight's their latest version of their white paper. I've got that. That's a really interesting conversation. You definitely want to hear, but I won't go on more about that. But you want to check that channel out and start listening, man. I've got a full podcast playlist. You can listen to them all in a row in a day, and I'm going to continue adding more. So I'm going to have one eventually for like World Economic Forum stuff, and then another one for just trading. I've got 250 PDFs I'm going to turn into like conversational podcasts. You're going to learn a lot. But they're audio only, just so you know.
In blockchain technology that leverages zero-knowledge architecture in order to produce real-world solutions that can complement existing blockchain technology. After Bitcoin, layer 1 blockchains like Ethereum, Cardano brought us self-executing smart contracts that enabled the way for DeFi to take its place. But all of these layer 1s have one important shortcoming. That's information verification. In the current state of blockchain technology, there is no way to verify medical necessity for healthcare services, or verify your identity for travel arrangements, or really any way at all to prove digital ownership over any assets that exist on blockchain. And you might be thinking, big deal, what difference does it really make? And it's a huge freaking deal that makes a difference of approximately something in the ballpark of $50 trillion. If you look at a list of the biggest industries on planet Earth, there's a huge portion of those industries that blockchain cannot tap into, it cannot serve or provide value to, because it has absolutely no mechanisms for verification of personal information. This is what Midnight will solve, not just for Cardano, but for the entire blockchain industry. And it's not just about the money that could be made. There are a lot of human rights things that are solved by doing this on blockchain technology as opposed to traditional government-owned systems. With the use of digital identities, Midnight creates a way for users to interact with a business or a protocol and be able to confirm personal information without actually disclosing that information. So if you're purchasing alcohol, which is the easiest example to give, a protocol can confirm your date of birth to make sure that you are of drinking age, but it doesn't have to disclose your home address in the process of doing so. This is way more secure than anything that involves having to hand over a government-issued ID that typically contains all of your personal information on it that you have to hand over if you want to verify anything in the current traditional state of things. If you really think about it, the amount of solutions that are created here in the real world is unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about data breaches and privacy leaks being a thing of the past. We're talking about no more identity theft.
And I'm gonna everything he's saying is so right. But the problem is at some point with technology like this, we're going to see major corporations, data brokers, and the like fighting against it for obvious reasons, because these data breaches that we have all the time on these major social media platforms, to me, we're not only are we seeing them far too frequently, but ultimately all that information, like, you ever wonder why you're constantly getting bot calls from, people that half the time they don't even respond to you picking up? The phone just hangs up. A lot of this stuff comes from multiple ways. Number one, you're either signing up for a lot of random things on the internet, and then your information is sold to the data brokers who then sell that data out to everybody else. Or two, it's just breached and it ends up on the dark web and it's again sold. Our information is sold so commonly that there are billions of dollars made ultimately by selling this information. And it honestly sickens me because I have multiple phones, and I'm about to get another one because I'm already starting to get these calls because I used my number twice on a website, and now I'm just starting to get hit with calls all the time. And it's like, it just doesn't matter what you do, you always end up being sold off to these data brokers, and it's got to stop. But there's such big money in that I can imagine we're going to see some pushback on technology like Midnight from major corporations that make billions of dollars selling our data, unless there are ways for them to profit from the zero knowledge efforts of things like Midnight. So we'll see how that happens, but there's a pro and a con to everything. And I'm just waiting for the pushback that I'm sure we'll see at some point by the major corporations that make money from these quote unquote data breaches and the selling of our data and our information and all of that. Likely the politicians that are lobbied by those corporations. I think we see some of that already because they see the writing on the wall as it is. So
we're talking about being able to verify things without actually having to give over your personal information to anybody. These are solutions that nobody is thinking about. Now, I'm going to get a little bit technical here, not something that would be too hard for anybody to understand, just breaking down the diagrams of the Midnight architecture that differs from other blockchains in its configuration of public data versus private data. This is still a blockchain in its truest form with decentralized infrastructure and everything. So there will be a public ledger, but the difference is that the metadata won't contain any of your personal information because that will fall into the category of shielded information. Here's how it works. If a user wants to engage with a product or service from a company or a protocol, then they would go and sign a smart contract. That smart contract verifies the personal information through the use of ZK proofs, so the company never actually receives the personal information. They're never actually able to collect it unless you as the user want them to. So they basically just get a confirmation of the data that is requested. Are you 21 years or older? Yes or no. Are you living in a qualifying area that qualifies for these services? Yes or no. That's how the shielded data works, but the unshielded data basically records on the ledger that a transaction happened between party A and party B with no metadata attached to it. It's a little bit oversimplified, but that's basically how it should work in most situations. Unlike most blockchain ecosystems, the Midnight blockchain will have two network tokens that are associated with it. The first token is the unshielded token, and it's called Night. It functions pretty much exactly like most layer 1 tokens that you are all familiar with. It will have a fixed supply. It'll have a deflationary policy. It'll serve as the consensus token for securing the protocol. It'll be the reward token for all that are helping to produce blocks on the network, and it will be a governance token. The second one is the weird one that functions different than what we've seen in the industry before. This is the shielded token, and it's called Dust. Dust will actually not be transferable. It'll be easily obtainable, but it's not something that you're going to be trading. And I think the point here is to address regulatory concerns around privacy coins so that it couldn't be accused of facilitating illegitimate transactions or potential transactions that are associated with criminal activity. That's not going to be a concern on Midnight. Dust is going to be the transaction token for all of the shielded data that is associated with any given transaction that happens on the Midnight blockchain. There's supposed to be more information coming out in the future about the relationship between the Dust and Night tokens, so you can expect that when that paper comes out, I will be sure to do a deeper dive on this whole thing.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. I'm going to leave the videos, obviously the links to both of the videos that I featured today down in the description below. But I also want to point out that, you know, what's ultimately going to be happening is, as Charles has discussed in lectures recently, 135 different wallets across multiple chains are going to be able to access the Midnight network, which is ultimately using Cardano's consensus systems to work, to function, right? So think about it this way. And I know that there are going to be airdrops, but those airdrops are going to be prompts to basically participate in the network, which is effectively going to drive of 135 million wallets across all the different blockchains. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. I feel it. All right. Imagine what's going to happen when Midnight kicks off, these airdrops go into effect, and people are just finding opportunities to effectively participate in this Midnight airdrop across multiple ecosystems. Midnight Cardano itself is just going to absolutely boom. My question though is like, when is that going to happen? That's what I'm waiting on more information about. You know, I'm sure Cardano holders are going to benefit significantly from this, as well as other ecosystems. And I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be more about the numbers, you know, like I don't think it's going to matter what blockchain you're on for the most part. I think if it's an active blockchain, chances are it's going to be included in this system. So we're all still waiting on a little bit more information on the when, why, how, and all that. But I really do believe that Midnight stands a really big chance of becoming an underlining layer for Web 2, Web 3, I mean, everything. If it has to do with identification on a blockchain or just identification in general, you know, as an example of this and how I think Midnight could affect something, like we don't know what Iagon exactly is working on, in the sense that we don't know yet. What is this big major Web 2 platform? There's speculation that it's Walmart. I have personally no idea. I've just been seeing the hints in the comments. Let's just say, hypothetically, Walmart is trying to launch a new service that utilizes Iagon for delivery service, right? Because it lowers costs and it enhances security and all these other things. Effectively, by operating on Iagon, you're effectively, you know, Cardano is, think about it this way. When Ethereum was doing well, and Ethereum was the big thing, it was all of the ICO tokens that were doing really well that were driving up the value and the volume of Ethereum. Well, now we're getting to a point but all of those were very speculative, like fun ideas, right? The vast majority of those concepts and white papers for technology at the time really went to the wayside. Like very few of them actually, you know, lasted beyond that market cycle, continued to rise up and achieve new things in the next cycle. A lot of them just died, right? A lot of that was a cash grab. And it was exciting because we understood what the technology was meant to do and what was possible, but it was still fairly limited at the time, right? And so now we see so many things that are effectively going to be changing the way we do pretty much everything. And it's all going to be happening on Cardano in one way or another, a multi-chain across tens, 100 million wallets, 135 million wallets, assuming that the majority of these people activate and do what they need to do to claim the tokens off the airdrops. So I think, you know, yesterday when Cardano was pumping and everybody's like, what's happening? And, you know, you started seeing everybody get cocky. It's like, listen, I wouldn't get just so cocky yet. I think that the moon days are coming, okay? And I truly believe that Cardano is going to explode. I believe that if there's any crypto project out there in this market cycle that is going to absolutely melt faces, I do believe it's going to be Cardano. But I don't think we're going to just turn around, we're going to wake up tomorrow and it's just going to happen. I think this is something that's ultimately going to continue taking time. I think we're going to have to take the rest of the year. We're going to build with the rest of the market. We're going to ebb and flow just like everything else does. I don't think anything's going to get too crazy. But I do believe that when Midnight officially launches and more details come out on the details of what is to be expected, that is when I think things really start to just turn everybody around. And I think we're going to start seeing some mass exodus out of products and projects that aren't performing. That people are going to finally start understanding what's been built, why it's been taking so long, and what the actual use cases are. My point in Ethereum was a lot of those use cases were speculative ideas with fun white papers that got everybody excited because it was all so new. But now we've been through these market cycles where we've seen the outcomes of that. And while people are speculating on the value of other blockchains because maybe there's a big meme coin economy associated with it, or they're like whatever the use cases are for that particular niche or that particular blockchain, because I feel like each blockchain kind of has its own flagship. I don't really think Cardano has had a flagship yet, but I believe that Midnight will likely, in fact, become that major flagship, along with World Mobile Token for connecting the unconnected. I believe Cornucopias is going to be the big Web3 gaming flagship for the blockchain. I think Iagon is obviously going to be the big flagship for, peer-to-peer kind of, encrypted shared storage and all of that. I mean, we have multiple flagships that are basically launching and preparing to kick off. And these are real world use cases. This isn't about just speculative mumbo jumbo because of a bunch of people trying to cash grab, but to build quality that's going to stand the test of time and be utilized by generations effectively. And what I believe is ultimately a series of use cases outside of Cornucopias, a series of use cases that are going to be an underlining functionality to a lot of the applications and things we begin to use on a regular basis, whether it's for identity, storage, sharing, all of these things that we do already. But now it's going to go to that next generation level, and it's all going to happen on Cardano. I truly believe that. There are going to be instances, I'm sure, from companies that want to maintain control that are going to launch their own centralized versions of some of this tech so that they can try and control their own environments for whatever reason, whether they be CBDCs or, whatever the case may be. But I believe that there are going to be a lot of people that have to use them if they want to take advantage of whatever services are provided by those companies. But in the grand scale, outside of those smaller ecospheres, I believe that a lot of this is going to fall on Cardano. And I think that once these things really do kick off, we're going to see growth on this blockchain like we never thought possible. And when I've done these predictions in the past, $8 Cardano, we're seeing $12, $15. I've even seen as high as $35 Cardano. I don't think a lot of that stuff is going to happen. I think we could maybe peak out somewhere around $8 this cycle. I still really do believe that. And I've done multiple videos where I've calculated this in a million different ways as to how I think that's possible. But to see a $15 or a $30 Cardano, I think those days are coming in the future, potentially the next market cycle, because what happens between now and 2030, I believe it's going to be all blockchain and AI by the 2030 market, because so many transitions out of the old school into the new school are going to happen between 2025 and 2030, whether the politicians like it or not. But by that time, a lot of the major political figures and a lot of the major political contributors and things of that nature, they're already going to have their systems in play. Many of them already do. We're seeing that now. It's becoming more mainstream. This is all happening in phases. And what Cardano has been doing is effectively building a truly decentralized system by which people will be able to operate in all of these new ways of operating, right? In this new world of AI, instant gratification, identity issues. Why do you think there's such a narrative right now about the election and identity, right? Because it's a big, big, big deal. And, I could probably go on for an hour about this, but this is already all too long a video. I'll dive into it more in the future. But check out these channels if you're interested in learning more about what these guys have to say. And until next time, crow your coins. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.